We bought the pub at auction, and we're now the most co-owned community pub in Britain. As I say, with 1,500 co-owners.
We all wanna be good, good, good. Good neighbour.
We're going to be joined now by serial entrepreneur, futurist and self-styled insultant, Mr. Ed Gillespie.
Hi, Ed.
Hello.
Hello, Ed. Hello, you all right?
It's a pleasure to be here.
Good. So Ed is a co-founder of award-winning sustainable development agency Futurenaut. He's a lead facilitator with the Forward Institute and chief futurist of the Global Destination Sustainability Movement. I can barely say that, and you do it. So Ed's renowned for his direct, funny, and unflinchingly honest exposition of the shit show, basically, the meta crisis facing humanity. Big words for a big dude. Welcome, Ed.
How are you doing, Ed? You look remarkably similar to this week's Crystal Ball.
That's entirely coincidental.
It's weird. You've actually got a bit of silver eyeshadow on still.
I always wear that on Fridays.
Yeah, well, it brings out your eyes. Please tell us about the 1,500 neighbours who all became co-owners of a pub called the Lock-In in Norfolk.
The Lock's Inn, yes, in Geldeston. So this is a pub where I did all my underage drinking when I was about 17. Ironically, it's a pub that has no neighbours because it's in the middle of the marshes. It's down a dirt track, it's off-grid. And it's always been a legendary pub, but it came up for sale just after the pandemic and it was going to auction. And a whole bunch of us in the community realised that actually it was probably going to get bought by somebody from London, probably, because a pub is worth half as much as a pub as it is as a house. And so will someone probably buy it and turn it into a house by the river because it's a beautiful spot. So we decided to get a plan together. We had to actually buy the pub before we had the money. So we had to do lots of jiggery pokery. But we basically borrowed loads of money from people up front. People were very generous, lent us money without any bits of paper being signed. So it was all done on trust. We bought the pub at auction, and we're now the most co-owned community pub in Britain. As I say, with 1,500 co-owners. You only had to pay 50 quid to get a share. But everyone, whether they put in 50 quid or 50 grand, still only got one share. So it's very equal. Our shareholder meetings are totally chaotic because you have to have 100 people to have quorum.
More than our show.
Yeah, exactly, more than our show. But the pub's now been community owned for 4 years. It's got fully solar roof now. It's hyper-local. We've redone all the sewage system.
And have you seen a change in the neighbours? Has it brought neighbours together? Has it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing like a pub that you go into when half the people in the pub are co-owners. Literally.
Do any of them pay? I own this place. Give me a free drink.
They're not allowed behind the bar. I mean, it's quite clearly. But yeah, it's an amazing thing, and it's a beautiful place, and the story brings people in now because people know it's a community pub. It has a very different atmosphere, and now it draws in people from all over the place.
And the neighbourliness there sounds like, and I'm sure it's given you lots of learning and information for another project that you're just starting to get involved with, the Big Lunch as well. Yes, so maybe just tell us a bit about that as well.
So the Big Lunch is like the UK's biggest collective meal. It's been going over a decade now, I believe. It attracts about 10 million people. The next one is going to be in the first weekend of June 2026. But thousands of people coordinate big lunches in their own local area. So it's very community-led, but it's literally people coming together and breaking bread and sharing food. And it's nothing more complicated than that, but it's a celebration of our connections, usually in a kind of deeply local way, but also just that most basic element of hospitality. You know, we come together over food and we hang out.
Yeah.
How could somebody arrange one of those if they wanted to themselves?
So if you just Google Eden Project, the Big Lunch, you will find the website. You can get an organisers pack, and you can then get all the instructions and the top tips and guide on how to set up a big lunch in your neighbourhood.
That's such a good idea. Get on it, neighbours. Okay, fine. Chill out.
But, right, well, I can ask you. But It certainly seems that you've worked with big organisations and you've done things at that very corporate level, and you go and do a lot of podcasts. People want to speak to you, which is why we're very grateful that you came here to speak to us. Thank you very much. But I think it shows that you're very interested in this idea of being a good neighbour. Everything actually seems to be politically moving towards that.
Yeah, no, I passionately believe that, and I think, when we actually look around us on a daily basis, the cultural narrative may be one currently of polarisation and division and separation and disconnection, but actually, if you open your eyes to the observable daily kindnesses that everyone makes to strangers around them all the time, it's profoundly moving. We don't observe and we don't pay attention to those myriad kindnesses that happen all the time around us, and they don't attract the attention of the media, and yet that's the glue that holds us all together.
Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more with you on that. Even when you just look out the window of the bus, you can see neighbours helping each other. If you drop something, people pick it up. It isn't quite as bad as the news is constantly telling us.
Neighbours, not an island of strangers.
Yeah. So you host a podcast called The Futurenauts.
A co-host, as you would know. You're co-host.
I feel like I'm actually kind of really driving this, actually. More of a hindrance, really. Dead weight, yeah. And then I got this child as well. It's just great. Claire, come back. Not really, love you. So you host The Futurenauts with somebody else, and you've got 40,000 listeners, which is quite good considering how many podcasts there are now. What's it all about?
So John Richardson, The Futurenauts, so we actually have a famous host, so we have a comedian who anchors the whole thing, and then my friend
Are you
Mark.
saying she's not famous?
I wouldn't know what that was like, but sounds good.
I have been in EastEnders. So.
And then my friend Mark and I are the Futurenauts. Futurenaut comes from astronaut, so it's like future sailor, sailing close to the winds of change. And we started doing the podcast to talk about complicated systemic change challenges and issues, but in a way that people might talk about it down the pub. So it's quite sweary, it's sort of seriously playful, funny, but we take big topics and we tend to ask 3 questions, like how fucked are we, why are we fucked, and how do we unfuck ourselves?
Just keep that away from Joe, because he will fuck that even harder. I like that most of your community work is sort of alcohol and pub based, and I really like that.
I hadn't realised that was a theme until you actually pointed that out.
Well, something that a different theme, but obviously still on the issue of community and support, is I know you've been doing a lot of work supporting Gaza, and particularly this idea of bystander leadership. And maybe you can explain what that means.
Well, I think a lot of us felt there was limited things. We felt paralysed, didn't we? We felt powerless. What could we do? When you see this unfolding genocide and this hideous tragedy going on, and there were myriad people doing extraordinary things. But I think, individually, we're still going, well, what do we do? And I work a lot with senior business leaders, and I was really struck by the fact that nobody would stick their head above the parapet. Nobody would actually speak out. And so we hosted some sessions around this notion of bystander leadership, which is all about understanding the ability to take that first risk, to take the first step, to step into the vulnerability of being exposed, but knowing that if you have the courage to do that, then other people are quite likely to step in alongside you and stand in solidarity with you. And that's perhaps one of the biggest challenges we have now, is to look at the people who are demonstrating and embodying bystander leadership, who are taking personal risk and sacrifice and doing really difficult, sometimes illegal, and conventionally law-breaking things, but they're doing it with profound moral intention, and their leadership should be inspiring the rest of us to step up alongside them and to stand up for what's right.
I absolutely love that. Thank you. And we can reveal you were, in fact, the crystal bald. I know no one would have possibly guessed that. Did you enjoy it? And who would you recommend as a crystal bald for next episode, if indeed there is one after this?
Right. Well, I think you could have any one of 3, couldn't you? You could have Brian Eno, another great bald. Brian also helped us in the buying of the pub, the Galveston Lock, so he was involved in that story. You could have Ian Bruce, who also has a wonderful, very, very smooth head.
Great musician.
A great musician. We're also thinking Dr. James Dyke, the climate scientist, because he also has great bald head and amazing eyebrows.
Brilliant.
So many good baldies out there. Okay,
Well-
please, send your suggestions in if you have any others. We've already had Vin Diesel, so don't worry about that.
Thanks, Ed. Thank you.
Thank you.